Lake City Council meeting. It is February 11th. This is a special council meeting. I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. If everyone would go ahead and stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Adeline. All right. City Manager Megger, would you go ahead and establish a quorum?
I'll let these guys in really quick here. Mayor Swatsky,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Scafani,
Here.
Councilmember Napier,
Here.
Councilmember Lewis Lesso,
Here.
Councilmember Fire is absent due to illness.
Thank you very much. It's now time for public comment. Actually, we need to go ahead and approve the agenda. I apologize. Does anyone wish to amend our agenda or move anything around?
I would like to take item 5C and put that at the bottom of below future agenda. And my reason is that I think we're going to spend a lot of time on that. And so I'd like to set that at the end of the meeting so that if we go over, we can carry that to our next meeting rather than have a whole bunch of items that are unfinished. Do we need to have a second?
Is that, yeah. Does anyone wish to amend that?
That sounds reasonable.
All right. Any public comment on that? On any agenda items being moved around?
Okay,
Anyone in the Zoom? Seeing none. Would you like to make a motion?
So I would move that item 5C is moved to happen after 9 and before 10.
Second.
All those in favor say aye of moving item 5 or 10C, or excuse me, what was it again?
5C below 9.
5C below 9. Thank you.
Aye.
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 That passes unanimously. All right. Go ahead and open it up for public comment. Look at or provide information relevant to the city council's authority that is not on the agenda or there's not another item for it. Thank you. Yes, Adeline?
Adeline Jones. Two decisions by the council at the last meeting have caused me to speak tonight. First, our Blue Lake logo. Really? We have a beautiful logo crafted by a local artist. The outside rim of it can be changed according to events, such as bicycle chains for bike events or railroad tracks for Annie and Mary Day. It has already been reviewed by the Arts and Heritage Commission and the Economic Development Commission. Adjustments were made and it was approved. After seeing some of the ideas on Facebook from our current mayor, Sawatsky, especially his rendition with Nazi symbols on it, I am more convinced than ever that our current logo is attractive and perfect for Blue Lake. Item 2, housing and the housing element. As I said at the League of Women Voters Candidates Forum, housing is needed in Blue Lake, particularly low-income housing. I have attended 3 meetings in the past month, the Mad River Grange, the Blue Lake Museum meeting, of which I'm a board member, and the Wanika Club meeting. At all of these meetings, it was brought up that a person is seeking a place to rent in Blue Lake. We need housing in Blue Lake, specifically low-income housing. One citizen has asked at this meeting, what can the state do to us if we don't comply? Just check out what has happened in Norwalk, California, La Habra Heights, Fullerton, Elk Grove, Coronado, and Portola Valley. I've looked those up. The state sued them for not complying, They countersued and the state won. These lawsuits are expensive for all, and only the lawyers benefit. I have to say that I signed a check years ago in 2000 as mayor for $600,000. It still pains me to think about it because we lost a lawsuit. No repeats of that, please. I personally toured the 2 low-income projects in Arcata, and they are thoughtfully designed. Net zero energy, a manager on site, common areas for tenants. Blue Lake Elementary is at 157 students, half of what enrollment was when my 2 children went to school there. The town itself has lost about 200 citizens in the last 10 years. That sign in front of City Hall is not accurate. Pass the housing element, and let's move forward on the Bottawat Community Project. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to clarify, those were not Nazi symbols, so I will defend myself on that. Nazi symbols? Thanks. Yes, go ahead.
Point of order, do we have a clock showing us how long we're supposed to speak for, or is that part of our process? Or
We do, but we don't have a remote control that is working. So I will give you.
that's okay. I know 3 minutes right to the.
I've got you.
Ken Sawatsky here. I'll have to disagree with I think every single point your ex-mayor brought up here. Um, the logo itself was brought forward with only one choice. The comments was presented at the mission at each place. Basically was asked for a rubber stamp as far as we were concerned. Darcy Lima was the one who brought it up. It looks like a certain symbol there, a totem, uh, and there was no response. So that's why we need to have this process start over. Um, Again, I'm pointing right up here at the logo. I think I actually started doing some research on some beautiful logos that are out there, and we have a whole bunch to choose from, could adapt from. County of Humboldt has a beautiful logo. Our local tribe has a beautiful logo down here. And so anyway, I totally support your decision to consider at least putting that back to the public, and let's have some choices. I think it'd be a wonderful thing to have a few choices involved in the process. Regarding the housing element, these things may have been sued, they may have countersued, but you get all kinds of warning before you get sued. And I don't think we're in any danger of engaging in anything. I think our housing element basically is putting way too much emphasis on creating what I consider to be a poverty pocket and putting all the affordable housing in one little area. That's not what the state wants to have. They want to have us all live together, high income, low income in one thing. It's a common sense thing. So I think we're not in any jeopardy. I think we have plenty of time on that housing element, probably a year or two. And as long as we're making some strides to go down and find something, changing what we may need to change, come to resolution, I can see no chance of us engaging in litigation. I think we're smarter than that. So I have faith in all of you up there to avoid that situation. Um, so that's a little bit of my input on these things. I did also wish to make a mention. But today I wanted to make mention that they're coming with a 2 basin solution. Unfortunately for the Eel River, I spent a lot of time in the supervisor chambers, and that was passed today. Um, I'm glad we weren't given that choice. I'm glad we don't have to decide how much of our water is going to go from the Mad River and be sent down south somewhere else. So anyway, interesting times. I did want to say there's something out there that I allegedly caused the businesses to shut down the doghouse. That's untrue. I had nothing to do with any complaints. I received a communication from the county, basically that they felt the city had not been receptive to requests to have inspections and things, and so I was the one who put that out there. Within 3 hours, great thing Emily was doing, she got back a hold of the county and started working on that. So these permits have to be, and we know permits have to happen, and people have been misinformed, told they didn't need permits, but they did, and now we have to fix them. They have opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. So I could be wrong and I don't want to misspeak, so I'm not going to say 100%. And I appreciate as a community member to see you doing research because it's fun to see you be on this side of it and sit with us. Um, In what I read, I did not find any situation where there was a project projected as small as ours where there was a lawsuit carried out. Most of those communities were significantly larger than ours and significantly more in need of housing. Well, not, I shouldn't say more in need of housing, but significantly larger are those communities that they're being sued and things like that. Being sued. I think we would be setting precedents if we were sued being as small as we are. I have not. I've not seen. I have researched also, and I don't think there's any place as small as Blue Lake that's being attacked. Well, it does because it's our level of risk and assessment, and what we're saying is it worth the time to evaluate, to take into consideration pros and cons over the fear of being sued. And quite frankly, if we're not at risk for being sued, then it is worth taking the time. And the fear mongering, it's just fear mongering if it's really not a threat.
Thank you. Anyone else from public? Anyone else on Zoom? Seeing none, I'll take it back to council. All right. So now we are on to, I apologize here. We're on to City Council roles and responsibility manual update, items A and B. First item is meeting efficiency and optimization. City Manager Megger, would you like to weigh in on that?
Sure. So we've talked a little bit about updating the council manual. We had a pretty lengthy council meeting our last go around, and one of the ideas that was presented was, talking about ways that we could improve efficiencies and optimize our time. And I think a lot of that can be addressed through the update to the council manual, the roles and responsibilities and process. We know that we have some discrepancies between the municipal code and the manual, and then kind of status quo of how we've been doing business. And so, thinking about ways to create a more efficient process for everyone, I think updating the manual is a great starting place. I think it's also a great place for us to familiarize ourselves with the process, with our roles and responsibilities. We've talked about a little bit about interactions with commissions and staff and how items get on the agenda. And I think a lot of those questions can be clarified and answered through the manual update. I did provide council with a draft, and this has been kind of an ongoing draft for a number of years. Prior council did have an ad hoc at one point to start working on an update. Our manual is fairly outdated, even just identifying what that we have. They just never finished the process to get it all the way to adoption. So we do have, I think, a good starting point. I also have copies of the City of Eureka, the City of Fortuna. Um, City of Arcata also has a manual. They're all very similar because the form of government that we all have, which is the city manager council form of government, is all pretty standardized. And it's standardized both from cities' municipal codes, the state laws, Robert's Rules of Order, the Brown Act, those all play a role in that. So there's not a lot of deviation between roles, responsibilities, process. So I thought it was an opportunity for us to maybe look at some other examples. What I would recommend, I think it was a good process that we had with a couple of councils ago, was an ad hoc to be able to get together and work through it, because it does take a little bit of time to sit at a table, go through each paragraph, make the changes, review the changes. And I think it's a more efficient process than having to do that like at this setting. I don't think you guys want to sit here for hours going through the manual as we update it if we can find a better process to do that. We did talk, about some of the bigger items. I know the format of the agenda was one that we wanted to talk about. The municipal code identifies a process. The manual identifies a process, and then there's a process that we've been following. And I'm actually not really sure where this process came from. It was here when I started working here. So So April was our city clerk, and I don't know if at some point the council just said, "Hey, we'd like to kind of change things around," and this was what they came up with. But it doesn't reflect what the manual and the code say. And I know that Councilmember Louis Lesso had talked about rearranging a few of those items, which I think would be totally fine. The agenda is always subject to change by council, so you can always move things around. But if we came up with a standardized process that you guys feel more comfortable with, we could just, make that change as well. So, um, thinking about some ways to kind of optimize our council time, our staff time, improve efficiencies. Some of the things I think we could talk about are the use of the consent calendar or the consent agenda. That's a really great way to be able to get some of the items that are just very kind of routine, more updates, minutes, and things that don't really have substantial changes or need to kind of have those larger conversations. Those can be taken care of with the consent agenda. Um, and then also encouraging council. I know you guys all work and have, busy lives as well, but if you have questions prior to a meeting that staff can help you with, to answer questions before we get to this, if we can answer some of the more, kind of low hanging fruit questions to clarify things, that can also be very helpful. So I wanted to offer that up. And so I don't know how, Mayor Swatsky, how you wanted, if you wanted to kind of go around or kind of talk about ideas. I'm sure council members have some ideas. And as staff, I'm happy to work through that and see how we can incorporate those efficiencies.
Yeah, let's go ahead and go left to right and for people who have ideas on how to optimize their meetings, or do you want to go right to left? You can
No,
take
I'm
it.
just turning.
Okay.
I want to listen to y'all with some ideas first.
Okay. Um, I think setting like time limits on ourselves, like maybe a 3 to 5 minute time limit, which can be extendable with the approval of either the mayor and or the majority of the council. That way we're not sitting here talking on and on for hours. Also, potentially, if someone has already said something that you agree with, say, I agree with such and such. And if you'd like to amend that and say, however, I also think that maybe we should do this. Maybe those are some ways that we could optimize our conversations up here. Great. Okay. I will talk louder. I apologize. So basically, what I said was that we could have our um, speaking time for council members be 3 minutes, setting time limits on ourselves so that we move forward in a timely manner, and then to go ahead and have each item take about 15 minutes, depending on how intense of a subject it is. And if the council wishes to extend the conversation portion of the meeting, or excuse me, of the item, they could extend it via a vote.
I would agree with the timing of the council members. I would also agree with the consent agenda and not pulling items unless they're controversial or have an error in the minutes, say, that need to be corrected. I like the idea about asking staff about things ahead of time that are within our, if we have a need for some extra information in order to work on a project or make a decision. I think that that's important. Also, I would like to think about paying more attention, and I'm not saying that this has been a problem. I'm just anticipating as we move forward, if there are some big issues that are controversial, there might be more than 5 people making a comment, and then we are extending the 15-minute. And I don't think that we're paying attention. Maybe we are paying attention to the 15-minute limit. And if there are more than 5 people who wish to speak about a certain topic, maybe choosing a spokesperson for that topic to, especially if they're obviously if they're saying the same message, if they're repeating what has already been said. Those are some things that I was thinking about.
Great, thank you. Kat?
Yeah, I have some thoughts on that too. I think efficiency comes in a lot of different forms. I don't know that necessarily having a 3 minute limit for a council person to ask questions or express an ideal is should be set limiting factor. You know, if you want to put a timer on and have a little ding, it's like, oh, okay, I better wrap this up. But I think a hard and fast limit could be a real challenge. I think what would help me as a council person, and sometimes when I'm asking questions, I'm not necessarily asking those questions for my benefit, but to help bring that information to the public. You know, the questions that I know that citizens have had, and so I want to be able to help clarify that and develop a full picture, not just for myself, but for those who are listening and involved in this. So I do have a question about asking staff in advance with their questions, that we would be able to have those questions then shared with all of the council and the answer shared with all of the council. Otherwise, we're informing one council person, another one might have that, and we need to all be operating with the same information. The second thing that would help me, and even with consent agenda, for instance, if there's going to be discussion, and I'll just use the last wage and salary discussion. Um, it's difficult to approve something if you don't know how many people you have, at what level they are, what is the actual job description and duties that are involved. So the more information on the front side, the fewer questions actually on the back side. Then lastly, I would say that there have been times, and I mean this very respectfully, that I've asked very specific pointed questions, and at times the information I'm receiving back is sort of the same information at length that we've already received. And there might be a very specific question that I have that is maybe a 1 or 2 sentence response would be nice. Thank you.
So I'll just say that I think each of my fellow council members have brought up some really good points. I would like to say that yes, asking the questions in the room is really beneficial to everybody in the room. And I feel that it's really helpful for the public because the public's able to see our process of learning and deliberating and information sharing. When everything happens, you know, off screen, um, nobody really knows, what lengths we've gone to research or understand a subject. So definitely want to support information sharing here in the meetings. I would like to give another plug for the council to have more open access to public documents without having to request each and every piece. Again, if we could have some sort of access to electronic city policy procedure, various types of manuals and information, that would save a lot of staff time answering our questions. And so we could all educate ourselves and be more effective when we're here. And I think that sometimes if we have 20 people in the room that want to comment for public comment, we can reduce that time from 3 minutes to 2 minutes or 1 minute per person, so that everybody does still have an opportunity to speak, and and you know, when we're not going really, really long. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Those were all great ideas. Do you guys mind if I take it out to public for comment? All right. Yes, go ahead.
Ken Swatsky, I've spent roughly 17 years in many different forums, including a lot of it in the supervisor's chamber. City of Arcata has a way of dealing with this. They actually used to have people come up and pick a number 1 through 5 or whatever to speak. Or the other thing that I think really works well is if you have a lot of people in the room, you say how many people want to speak. We have 15 minutes, and then you can go down to, like, it's discretion of the chair. Say, well, we're going to give you each 2 minutes, or you each get 1 minute. It's usually 2 minutes, 3 or 2 minutes, but those are totally decisions that can be made on the fly regarding the decision of your mayor. Um, so I do strongly support what you have here. And I do want to say that the public does appreciate being informed when you're making a decision, what it's based upon. Getting that facts are important. We don't look favorably upon first thing when, say, we have this going on and then somebody jumps up and I'd like to make a motion. We'd like to hear your thought process, even if it's a truncated, shortened view, just to inform us exactly why you're making a decision. I'm making this decision based upon the following information, which I received from Amanda Bates. So at that time, you're sharing that with the public. So that just makes it a lot more comfortable for public participation. So strongly support you cutting down length of your meetings, and I think you're all capable of doing that, getting on the same page, because you don't want to be here for 2 meetings a week for 4 hours, and I don't want to be here either.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just want to say that the meetings are literally an opportunity for the community to present their feelings to city council, and to limit community involvement, I think would be detrimental to the cause. And the most impactful times, I've spent a lot of time just like watching meetings here and other places, and the most impactful times is when you see the people come together, and you listen to them, and you see them get up at one after another, speaking their words, and they're expressing themselves. And to say that one person would represent a group of people, I think that'd be very difficult, because how do you know what they're representing unless we all have like matching shirts or something? Um, and I was totally support limiting time, but I think to deny uh, a community member from getting up and just getting the opportunity to say, "I'm here for this," and this is, if someone's going to get up and speak about something with passion or with a lot of care, they should just get the chance to. And they can be short, and they will be willing to be short about it if that is what is asked, I think. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Anyone else from the public? We have one on Zoom, Terry Bailey's.
Hi, let me undo this just a minute. Can you hear me okay? Okay. I just want to say that I think it's really important for the city council to have time to deliberate on any of these items, and enough time, because I've heard people, talk for more than 3 minutes, and it's been really good to hear what they have to say. And, I think those community comments, although we don't live in a big, huge city where you might have 1,000 people show up for a meeting, I think I agree with the other speaker that making sure people have an opportunity to speak so you can hear what they have to say is important. And I also just want to add that we are only having one meeting a month, and many councils have two. And to run a city and do a good job and be able to deliberate on all the big things that are happening right now, that may take more time. And so sometimes you can't condense something into a little tiny bit, or maybe we need two meetings if it can't be done in one and it's long. Thank you.
Anyone else on Zoom? All right, last call from the public for comment. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to council for further discussion. We are at 15 minutes on this item.
I do want to just say that I said this last meeting, and I'll say it again. I think that as we spend a little more time as a council together, we're gonna get better at this. We're gonna get more effective and efficient, and take less time doing it. Thanks.
City Manager Megger, do you have any more input on this item? Any other
No,
ideas?
I do agree. You guys have a lot on your plate. There's a lot, a lot of big projects that, were brought forward from the previous council, and now you're kind of at the end, where you're having to make some of those decisions that, the previous council, kind of teed up to be made. So that's definitely understandable. Like I said, I do really encourage council to feel free to take the time with staff, and as we figure out, what your needs are, how the best way to get you information, and, provide you a level of clarity on issues that makes it helpful for you. We're happy to work through those issues. It's difficult to be on this side of the table. It's different than when, you're sitting out here, and government, you do have to make decisions. And there's a lot of people in the community. We have over 1,100 residents that, have expectations of our council to make decisions. So, just kind of keeping that in context, that there's, that that you represent a much larger demographic than what's represented out in the room too. And so just keeping that in mind, that there's a lot of people showing confidence in you that aren't in this room, because they, on some level, they have confidence that you're going to make good decisions. So it's okay. You're elected to represent the community. As a resident myself, I have an expectation that my council representatives are, representing me to some degree, and I don't need to, second guess you or be here. I have that level of confidence, and there's a lot of people that have that in you as well. So, like I said, just if you want to take the time, if there's stuff that we can provide or go over, we're happy to do that until you get to the point where you feel like you have that foundation to make those bigger decisions. So yeah, I think the use of the consent agenda, it's not something um, that we used a lot in previous councils either, but it is really a good tool. And I'm always kind of a little bit loath to put stuff on consent, just because I think, oh, I can get through it quickly, and so at least you get to make a decision. I'm not asking you to not, but I would like to use that tool more as well. Like I said, you guys can always pull those items, but I think we saw at the last meeting, we had all of the meeting minutes got pulled, and there really weren't any questions on those. And so, that would have been 6 items that you could have passed without having to go through that process. So things like that, I think it's a tool, it's there for a reason. And it's not there to circumvent process or governance. It's there to help you, maximize the use of your time and move things forward.
Great, thank you. Any other comments from council?
I just want to say, as far as consent, um, I think, um, a little more collaboration on the front end of our agenda setting might be helpful. If there's more discussion with whomever is on the agenda setting committee, um, some issues may be brought up, where a certain piece of information or, you know, um, more background can be identified as needed. And so that can go in the packet. And so that would save everybody time, and the public would have access to that as well. Um, and it just, we did make a number of corrections on those minutes last time. Not every one of them, but it's hard to know, um, which ones to pull and which ones not. So hopefully in the future we're only going to have one meeting minute to approve at a time, and it won't be so cumbersome. Um, thank you.
Great, thank you. Anyone over here wish to make a comment? Do we wish to formulate a list and bring it back to council at a later time for a proposed rough rule set to be considered, or do we want to? What are our next steps? What do you guys feel?
I don't know that we need to develop a protocol for efficiency. I think that I think we just expressed some of the parameters that we can all work on. So we give it a go, we see how we evolve. And then when I talk too much, he'll cut my mic off.
Anyone else?
I would like to request that more collaboration happen with the agenda setting committee. I know that the 2 meetings I was on that committee, I was excluded from discussion. And so had I been able to see the items that were coming up, I might have been able to identify some missing information that could have been included in the packet. But yes, we've decided that John is our lead on interacting with the city manager, city clerk, in setting the agenda. But we also agreed that he will have the ability to designate another council member to work with him on each agenda. So I think it's important that each of those participants are recognized in the discussion and part of that. And then it's more of a collaborative effort. And maybe we can shorten our meetings just by having, one more um, group of ideas into the building of the agenda and the information that might be needed in there.
Great, thank you. So it's the consensus of the council that we'll just kind of try and regulate our time on our own and see how things go.
Yeah. I think that we've shared some thoughts and ideas, and I think that we can be mindful moving forward with some of the discussions. And um, yeah, I don't see any need to put anything hard and fast or
Okay.
change
I
anything.
redone. I do have a comment, also acknowledging the development of the agenda. Some of these that we've seen from the very beginning have been, you could look at it and see the amount of time that it's going to take. I'm willing to do the work, but I would request first, if there's going to be a special meeting, if there's even consideration of it, that all council members would know in advance. I found out about this on Friday evening that we would be having a meeting, I think on Tuesday. I think somewhere I missed the boat on that we were actually having a meeting, a special meeting. And on this one, I, is a great deal of reading to do in a short period of time. Um, I think that there are other ways to handle it, and I think having the council really having a direct hand in the development of the agenda and setting the agenda is going to help move this council's priorities along in a more streamlined manner. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Moving on to item B, if we're done with discussion. All right. Item B, interaction with the City of Blue Lake commissions. City Manager Megan, would you like to speak on this?
So this was on your spreadsheet, and I'm not really sure what, if you guys just wanted to talk about, like what the code talks about, or if you have specific questions, the role of the liaisons, commissions, staff. Um, I'm not really sure what the council wants to discuss on this item, but I do have the code available and the roles, and if we could go through that.
Is that in our packet or was that outside our?
Yeah, well, you guys, I gave you originally, everyone got the roles and responsibilities, and then you have access to the code. I think we printed that as well.
Okay.
And then I gave you the draft that had the track changes that we've been working on. Um, but just not sure. I thought this would be a good time if you have specific questions. If I can't answer them, I'm happy to bring information back to you. Or we could talk about some stuff we'd like to work on or clarify, or like I said, I think going through the update for the manual will help to answer a lot of questions, clarify if you want to make some changes. Some of the changes for commissions, especially, there are some state law limitations about the role of council and commissions because there is a distinction between those, and there's some incompatibility issues. I think it's Office of Incompatibility of office is one of the state laws that kind of influences how a council member can interact with a commission. So we just have to be mindful of that. But this is your opportunity to ask questions, and like I said, I'm happy to if I can't answer it, I'll see what I can do to find the information for you.
Great. Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
I would certainly appreciate a copy of the state law regarding the incompatibility of office, all language that's limiting interaction between commission and council.
So,
Uh, Also on
sorry.
commission, just throwing out one of the things that a lot of people have mentioned in the past, um, is to have a liaison from the commission come to the city council meetings and report directly.
I agree with Kat on that. I would like to see the chairs and or appointed member come before the council and present projects that they're working on and or when they would like to advance an idea to bring it before council for consideration, depending on the scope of the project. That way the council can weigh in on it. And so that um, they don't spend too much time working on a project before, without asking the council their opinion on it.
And just so you know, kind of how the flow goes with commissions, a lot of what the commissions work on, it does come from the council. Either the council asks the city manager through the commissions to research an idea. There's some specific um, uh, objectives that are identified in the manual about what the commissions actually work on. Some of them have been task specific things. Public safety is one of those. They were specifically tasked over the years to work on the sheriff contract, different things like that. So, but usually the commissions are used as kind of an extra layer of research and communication over specific topics. And then they usually will either make a recommendation back to council for consideration, but they don't make, the only ones that actually make a decision is the planning commission. Everyone else is just an advisory and can only make recommendations, but can't take any specific action. Would you guys like I would think that a monthly um, report might be asking a little much, maybe a quarterly report from the commissions. They only meet one time a month. So I don't know if I could, how they would feel about once a month coming to a city council meeting. But
I think that we can certainly try it with every council meeting and then see how it goes. If we need to dial it back, we can. But right now, as I'm looking at each of the commissions and what they're working on, um, oh, okay. We have Arts and Heritage Commission that is working on AI policy, which seems to go, if that's about art and artists itself, that's appropriate. But if it's in general developing AI policy for the city of Blue Lake, that's well beyond any intent of that commission. The same with we have Economic Development Commission, which has some really fabulously talented people there with incredible work histories. But they have now developed an ad hoc committee to research the safety of the battery storage systems when safety would really fall under public safety, and they would be the appropriate ones. And we've even mentioned that, I think, in one of the last council meetings about giving direction to the Public Safety Commission when it is reconstituted to research. And I think it's incumbent upon the council to provide some specific guidance and questions for them to research beyond just, hey, will you take a look at these and see if they're safe? But ask them to consider this, whether it's from an environmental perspective, from the perspective of residents and the different demographics that we have, from placement. But right now it kind of seems like there's a lot of work flowing through commissions at varying levels, and I appreciate it's with good intent. But what ends up happening is, and we don't want a situation where a recommendation comes from a commission to the council and they get a no. So, we want to be able to prove it, and we'll be able to prove more with the commissions the more that we're able to help guide them in what this council might be looking for.
And just for clarification, the EDC is looking at the best project from an economic standpoint because they've been working on the redevelopment of the Powers Creek district from the economic side and looking at the RV park and campground and different types of investment strategies to be able to move those forward. So they're not specifically, I mean, obviously safety is on everyone's mind, but what they're really looking at is how it plays a role in the overall redevelopment of the Powers Creek district. So.
Well,
Point,
go
sorry, point of clarification. Sorry, point of order. The antivirus protection screen on there. I just want to make sure our Zoom viewers can see what's going on in the meeting. I don't know if they could see that or not. Anyway, thank you. Go ahead, continue.
What I did see on the agenda and then the follow up with the meeting minutes was a request by the public to have that Development Commission to look at the safety, that there's a lot of misinformation around these batteries, the type of batteries. We know that we've had a different type of battery plant, burned down south of us. So there's a lot of concern. But that Economic Development Commission, from what I'm reading in those minutes, decided to take this on as a safety project. And I don't think that would be as an effective use as their time as it would for them to maybe to do some projections on how much would it cost to clean that up. What is the value of that land? What would be the return on investment to have an RV park? What is the cost to be able to operate an RV park? Who would be the potential users of that RV park? What do we expect the income to be, over the seasons, over the year? So there are a lot of great questions that we would like to have the economic development look at. But again, what I'm seeing is commissions kind of working on varying projects that it will have a lot more effect and better results if we can get and work with the commissions in a unified direction.
I agree. And I would like to see the council having a active role in setting the agendas for the commissions so that what they're being asked to do is actually what the council um, would would ask them for, as opposed to stuff like Kat mentioned, where they do a bunch of work and then they come over here with a recommendation, and we go, yeah, we're not really interested in that. Um, so so definitely would like to see a better back and forth, more communication. You know, if each commission could send one commissioner either by Zoom or in person to each council meeting, I don't think that's um, I don't think that's asking too much. Especially if, well, if we go to 2 meetings a month, you know, that's asking a bit more, but it doesn't have to be the same person at every meeting. And I think it would be really valuable for the commissions to develop a sense of what happens at a council meeting, because for the most part, I don't see any commissioners at our meetings. And it seems like there's a pretty significant disconnect at times. And so I think it'd be a really good idea to ask them to be more involved in our government in general.
Michelle, do you have any comments?
Yeah, the commission, the council manual does address commission reports in a very vague manner. It doesn't direct any particular protocol or frequency of reports out. I do think that it would be helpful to set some standard moving forward. We can certainly adjust that. It would be nice to take a more cohesive approach to some of these bigger projects rather than siloed approaches within different commissions. No disrespect for any of the work that's being done, but for updating the council as a whole, I think that would be one of the more efficient things, at least for me, not to have to study each commission meeting in addition to the work that I have ahead to work toward the council meeting. So that would be my opinion. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I think my opinion on the monthly meetings, I would say I think the liaison could probably carry any messaging between the council and the committee. Um, and I think that potentially a quarterly or bi-monthly would be acceptable. But that's just my opinion. I think we all can weigh in on it. Does anyone have any further discussion before we open it to public and or comment on my comment?
I'd like to comment on the comment you commented on. I think that it's obvious, and as Mandy already mentioned before, that kind of what we have about our commissions and ordinances are a little bit discombobulated, maybe not quite in line with what we're doing here. And I think this is a great time that we don't have to review the whole policy and procedure manual, but having a formal ad hoc committee that will study and review the commissions where we're at, what that intent would be a really good starting point so that we can come forward with some information and proposals.
One other thing I forgot to mention was I think that uniformity across all the commissions with regards to member count and processes for appointment would also help just bring uniformity to all the commissions. So I think potentially looking into that may be something we could look at in the future as well. Any other comments?
I just wanted to say one thing. I feel that a representative from the commission would be more valuable, more valuable. They have bring a different value to the reporting process than to have the liaison reporting out. That's just my opinion.
What if we did major projects they came for? Or do we want them to report on major projects, or do we want them to report on everything they're doing?
I think, of course, major projects, but also just a touching base. Even if it's just a quick update that's submitted on a piece of paper. Here are the projects that we're working on right now. Doesn't no big long discussion, but just to have some idea about what projects are happening.
Great, thank you.
So of our 5 commissions, we have 4 that we have liaisons to. So potentially we could require each of them to come to a meeting. Say maybe they don't all come to every meeting. Maybe We
you-
have each commission,
You mean liaison, which is one of us, or you mean one of the
somebody
commission
from the
persons?
commission would come to a council meeting, say, say we break up, I don't know, we break up the months, we divide the months of the year, and each commission gets 4 months, and we ask them to be here, or 3 months, and we ask somebody from that commission to be here at that meeting and bring information back to the commission. I mean, even
Mhm.
I don't want to give them a whole big pile of homework, but
Mhm.
I think it would, again, it would be valuable. Figure out some way to get them here and interfacing with us.
Mhm.
And I think all overall the relationship's going to be more productive if we can accomplish that.
Yeah, like that.
Great. Thank you. Go ahead.
Just if we were meeting twice a month, then two of the commissions could meet at one, and then two of the other commissions could meet at the second one, so that it's not four commissioners all at once trying to wait. It would make the meetings kind of go more quickly, and I guess with a little thought, we could time it with where those commissions are on the schedule, who would be on the first and then the last of the council meetings. That's all.
Great. Thank you. Go ahead and open up to the public. Yes, go ahead. Don't fight over.
Councilor Waski, one of the best tools you have as a council are your commissions. And I think the process needs to be changed in that you do need to give the direction. And I think each liaison or somebody should participate in the crafting of your agenda for these commissions. I think that's how you're going to get a product back. And you may even have specificity, such as there seems to be contention regarding the logo. Maybe the specificity that you would have had regarding arts and heritage. We'd like you to bring us 3 very distinctive logos that you find are interesting, different things of that nature. So they're your tool. In no way, shape, or form, other people have made it seem apparent they feel that you just pretty well have to rely upon their advice and rubber stamp what they have, but that's not your job. Their job is to do your bidding at your discretion and use your tool as effectively as you can. I think it's really important. It saves you a lot of time, and it enables the participation by the public should they desire to go to these meetings, which some of us attend quite a few of them, participate at both levels and follow the process on through. So I think I love the direction you guys are headed with this, and I think that you can really make sharpen this tool up to the point where it saves you a lot of time, shortens your meetings also.
Great. Thank you. Yes, go ahead, Adeline.
Yeah, I disagree with Mr. Sawatsky. I do not think that the council should micromanage the commissioners and the commission. I think that they need to be able to work independently, and it's very important that the city council person who is the liaison to the commission does not act as another commissioner. I mean, sometimes I've seen city council persons sit on the dais with the commissioners. I think the city council person should be sitting in the audience and taking notes and reporting to the council what's going on at the commission level. Um, be very cautious, I would say, about your role when you attend these meetings.
Great. Thank you.
I would just say, as someone who has seen the meetings from the commissions and the council all in 1 month, and how many times I've seen it, frustration from the commission, from different members of commissions, because it feels to them, I believe, that their time has been wasted because they come up on something and then it doesn't go through, or it's like repeat and you hear it pass back and forth between council and commission. I think that is the opposite of respecting their time. I agree that I think respecting their time would be to communicate more, to involve them more. I also was sitting out there wondering what's the difference between the liaison from the council sitting in on their meetings. It's as if one person here was to represent the entire idea. And so to have I liked what Kat said about having maybe more than one person from each commission be able to be that sounding box from the commission to the council. It brings a level of transparency and equality and fairness. And there's It's information. There's nothing wrong with information. The more the better. And yeah, I think this is a really good conversation, and I think it's important, and I think there should be nothing wrong with the commissioners being willing to come to sit in a council meeting. You guys are all willing to go sit in many commission meetings, and and it should be, you know, a two-way street. You're on the same team. We're all working together for the same thing, and there's no reason not to be working openly together through the whole process. So I think it's beneficial to everyone.
Great, thank you. Anyone else from the public? All right, looking over to Zoom, Terry Bailey's, go ahead.
It's actually Rebecca Collins here with
Hi, Rebecca.
Terry. We're doing Zoom together tonight. So, yeah, I went to the Safety Commission last meeting. It was very confusing. Jason said that the city council gives the commissions the agenda once a year for them to work on. I don't see how that can be possible because things change throughout the year and there's different things that you may want the commissions to work on. And you're guiding the commissions. You're asking them to maybe research things for you but the commissions are, from what I can gather, responsible to kind of try to fulfill your requests of them. So I would just like to say that I think it's a very good idea that someone from the commissions comes, and I think that a written report should be in the packet. Then you guys have a chance to look at it before. And then, you've already reviewed and then if you have any questions, it won't take very much time. And if there's 4 people on a commission and each of us take a turn a month, that's going to be a couple times. I don't think that's too much to ask the commissioners. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Yes, go ahead, Becky.
The Public Safety Commission does an annual work plan and presents that to council. And they identify what their proposed kind of goals and objectives are for the year. And council reviews that and lets them know whether those are the items that they'd like them to work on, gives them some feedback. They refine that, and that's what they work on. Obviously, special projects pop up throughout the year, and council can ask through either directly or through the city manager to ask public safety to do research or look into a project or a policy recommendation or things. But that might be something that could be helpful for the council, is to work with each commission to develop their yearly work plan. um, and I think, just recognizing it's really hard to get people on commissions, and it's hard to even get a quorum a lot of times. These guys are also, working and trying to run to meetings and stuff. And a lot of times, things go kind of slow. So I don't know that every month there's going to be anything super substantive to report. But I think an update on goals that you guys have set at the beginning, it would give you time to kind of talk a little bit with these groups and kind of get a feel for what they have been working on. Because a lot of what they have been working on, these are directives from the prior councils. So these aren't just, projects that, are just haphazard. These are things that have evolved over a period of time, whether it's working on, the Powers Creek district, or it's working on sheriff issues, or if it's working on, branding or marketing or different things. So they have all had direction at some point through this, through these interactions, just not with this current council. So I would recommend an option to have a meeting with each commission to talk about kind of a yearly work plan, and then have a quarterly check-in to see what progress they're making.
Great, thank you.
Having been on a previous council, I can't remember ever having conversations about the commission's annual work plans.
Only
So,
public safety was mandated to do that.
uh and I know Jason came to one meeting, but I don't recall that that's what his discussion topic was. It could have been. But I've been on the council now for 2 years, and that was only one meeting that I recall him attending. Um, anyway, I think if we have a formalized process um, where we address each commission and goals, I mean, first we have to set our own goals. Um, and we haven't had an opportunity to do that yet. But again, we're kind of at the beginning, and we have a lot of stuff to do. So anyway,
I'm not
thanks.
trying to, sorry, go ahead. Apologies.
That's all.
I'm not trying to shut down the conversation, just letting everyone know we're at 25 minutes for this item. Um, any other comment from?
I did just want to mention that's a little bit of a segue there into while we're developing goals and we have an annual work plan for one of the commissions that can move forward. I wanted to ask the question of are they based on a strategic plan that was developed by the city council? And where can I find the plan? And I know that that's probably a different topic, but when I ran into it in the manual, I was curious and I thought it would make a lot of sense and maybe save me some questions if I knew what the strategic plan was, what some of these goals are, and maybe is that where the commissions are coming up with some of their work plans?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So we do have a strategic plan that started in 1997 and has kind of evolved over time. Um, I have the projects that I report on to you guys monthly is kind of a progression of those goals plus, projects that come up or grants that we've been awarded or things. So we've had kind of this overarching directive about, economic development and recreation and infrastructure improvements and things. In the When I first came on board, there was a very specific what they called kind of a strategic plan. It was more of like a work plan checklist, though, that was like, update this policy. So we got all of those items done. And then we did some visioning with the Economic Development Commission right away. We got the EDA grant that we paid us. We had the resources to do more visioning about the Powers Creek District and recreation economies. And so that was kind of implemented and kind of it was still part of some of those original kind of goals and objectives that were set forth in 97. But we don't, and we've talked with EDC, that's kind of one of our work plan items is to find the resources to um, bring all of that up to date through a process. And we really need a facilitator to do that. It's a much larger process, and I think it's a really critical process. We just have been kind of working through the plans and strategies and visions that we've had, but we're kind of at a point where I think we need to expand out on that and update that more. So we have started that process a bit. So one of the projects that I worked on was just kind of taking that plan from 97. It had been updated a couple of times and then bringing it current. So projects that, just kind of fell off that were no longer relevant, projects that were in progress, projects that were kind of, needed different resources. So we do have some of that. And then we started kind of a template to start moving forward with a larger visioning. So we just actually talked today at EDC about looking this spring and summer to see if we could find some resources and a facilitator who could help us through that process. 'Cause I think that would be really helpful. So we definitely have been on a path, and there's been some real specific checkpoints along the way. But it all does kind of stem back from that original vision that was set a long time ago. The nice thing is, even though it was so long ago, it's all really relevant. It talks a lot about recreation, trails, you know, uh, the RV parking campground was one of the projects. You know, updating our infrastructure and things. So it's still really relevant to where we are today and kind of the direction we're going. But it would be nice to take that process on. I think it'd be helpful for everybody.
Great, thank you. Any other comment from council?
I would just say about that strategic plan from 97. I believe there was another update to that, I think in 2003. And last winter, the document from 97 was sort of resurfaced, and the council did talk about it, but I don't feel like we talked about it in a way where we were creating a direction or a vision or goals. I feel like it was more of a, hey, look what we found and look how this is applicable to what we got going on today. Maybe we should fine tune it. Maybe we should, make some changes or find a way to make it to introduce a process for the public to take part. Right. So I guess when I look at strategic planning as it's discussed in the manual, I feel like that's more of a, hey, we sit down at a table and we come up with our strategic plan for the next 12 months, as opposed to strategic plan for the city for the next 20 years. And I'd like the council to have an opportunity to do that.
I think we're getting off topic. Um,
Okay.
I think we're moving on to another topic. It's okay. We can discuss. Happy to discuss it later. I think we're about to segue into another topic. That being said, we are at 25 minutes for this item. Do we wish to continue discussing that item?
We were on the commission, weren't we?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you want to formalize an ad hoc committee to review on commission?
I'm not
Staff
opposed to that idea. How does the council feel about that? Do we wish to establish an ad hoc committee to review? Go ahead.
I would just want specific uh, objectives for the ad hoc.
Okay.
I guess more clarity, and then I can make a decision.
Well, I would propose, first an examination of ordinances, resolution, policy, and protocol revolving around our commissions as they currently are, and then coming up with something that's more standardized, equitable, and current with how we want to proceed, looking to incorporate such things as the potential for commission representatives, whether it's monthly or quarterly, but to kind of hit these points and basically just a whole review of commissions and how it works and how we can best facilitate success for the work of the commissions, bringing that forward to the council.
Sounds
Does,
good.
does anyone have a comment on that?
My preference would probably be to request regular reporting, some mechanism that works out, and then go from there, see how it goes as far as, yeah, rather than the ad hoc.
If it's acceptable for everyone, I think me and Kat could probably take that on. Do we need to formalize an ad hoc committee, or can I just spin one up?
I think if you can make that appointment,
Okay.
I don't think you have to make a motion or anything to do that,
Okay.
but it is important to have specific objectives.
Right.
So
So do we need to have the specific objectives now, right this minute, or can we formalize that at a later time?
yeah, if you
I mean,
want to
I
bring
think
this back at another meeting, I
I
mean,
think Kat just was fairly specific in what she just mentioned. I think that sounds like
I
a
agree.
good game plan for an ad hoc, personally.
I agree. We'll go ahead and follow those plans and form the ad hoc up.
More work.
Yay. All right. That was just a discussion item, correct? So we can move on from that.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All righty. Council correspondence. Item number 6.
So I've provided you guys with a copy of the correspondence.
Right. And I don't think we've established what we're doing with this. We're just reading it, and moving on, I think, right? Or do we need to
I think
comment
you
on
can
it?
read it out loud or not.
I'm going to choose to not read council correspondence out loud unless someone objects. Okay.
I think this letter is available to all in the room. There are copies for that as well, correct?
There's
And
copies made available.
Great. Thank you very much. Moving on to our consent agenda. Is there anything for us, City Manager
I
Maker?
don't think the
No.
public did get a copy of the letter.
I put it on the table. There were copies up there that came in separate. No, I thought there was all.
okay, I can share
Yeah,
mine
here.
here.
All right. Everyone satisfied with that? Moving on to item number 7, consent agenda. We don't have anything,
items,
correct?
no.
Okay, great. It's on there. So,
This is the fastest meeting you guys have had.
right, we're
I
working on
motion
it.
to approve the consent agenda. Yeah, as it
Second.
is perfect.
All right, good work.
Tech efficiency.
Oh, and we move C down below. Okay. Where was C down below?
9.
9. Thank you. All right, moving on to reports of council and staff. Anyone have anything to report out? I'll move left to right.
As far as meetings go, I'm going to save my report for the next meeting.
Great. Thank you. I have nothing to report.
I have nothing to report.
Well, is this where we, Phil and I are involved in an ad hoc committee? And I don't know, is this where we would begin to have discussion for results or findings in ad hoc?
Yes.
So need to be an
Not
item.
under I don't believe so. I think that'd be a specific item for discussion.
Well,
So that would be a future agenda item
Yeah.
then? Yeah, we would
Mhm.
list that as a
Yeah.
individual. Okay.
Because you're going to want to discuss that because you're essentially bringing information at the council to make a decision potentially. So that needs to be agendized.
well,
At
I
this
would like
point,
to hear this information and not make a decision tonight, but
this is just informative discussion only. If we wait until next time, then we get that much further. We want to make sure that we can provide action as requested. But this would be informational.
I'm gonna just a moment.
If ad hoc.
Adeline, do you know?
I think that it's completely acceptable for staff and council to report on ongoing issues as well as meetings.
So
We've done that
reports,
regularly.
discussions, but no decisions or action.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
I would just caution you on your level of discussion because remember items that you're discussing really need to be agendized so that the public can participate. If you bring up something that's not on the agenda and you go into a full discussion that can make some directions, then you're essentially violating the Brown Act.
City Manager Maker, can they report out? And as long as we don't talk back, is that
I think
acceptable?
that's fine.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.
Proceed.
Okay, and we can also provide any written information that supports it. We're not expecting any feedback. Is that, did you have any opportunity to go through?
Oh,
The second item?
no.
Okay. Well, sure.
Maybe.
So, do you want to either, this is the first one that had already been sent. We have a second one that has not, but that was just done today.
Can I just comment really fast? If it's not imperative, we do it now, maybe wait. But if you think you are ready to present, then go ahead.
Well, I think on the first one, because we want to, if we have an ad hoc, 2 council members aren't empowered to approve for the city manager. But at least if we can bring it here now, then we can quickly expedite it. So that's what I'm hoping that we could achieve, or at least get further along on the on-ramp. Okay. Okay, well, we can just do the first one and I can provide copies of that first sheet.
Maybe just report out, but don't provide
Okay,
the
I can do that. So,
packet.
Michelle, would you like to report out?
I can introduce the item. We had an ad hoc committee to assist in the issue of the city clerk position and duties, specifically minute taking to relieve the city manager from the task of the minutes. And we uh, worked on some possible immediate solutions in addition to exploring some options for long-term uh, options for the city clerk position. Does that sum it up?
I think it does.
Okay. Did you want to go into more? Yeah.
Sure. So on as we looked at the request and recommendation by the city manager on how to solve the need to have minutes and transcription of meetings, we identified two separate issues. One which was immediate, so that's why we're wanting to move this along, is to help provide support to the city manager. On the issue of the meeting minutes, we found that there is a need to scribe and provide meeting minutes for city council meetings. Admin staff are unwilling to attend the council meetings, thereby overburdening the city manager during the meeting. So we want to help free them up. Our recommendation, and this is based on some of the information provided to us by the city manager, was approval of immediate and temporary short-term engagement for transcription support services during city council meetings. So this isn't intended to be a forever solution, but we wanted to go ahead and for a period of time, and I think we had agreed that 3 months would be sufficient to provide some coverage and support for transcription and meeting minute services. Approve that at the requested rate of $30 an hour for an independent contractor, requiring that the hours be tracked separately along with other contract labor employees. Um, if appropriate, have an independent contractor sign any waiver of liability against the city, or otherwise have legal review by the city attorney before any terms of engagement are signed. Limitations would be approval for not more than $600 per month, which is a little bit over what the original request was. 3 months, 3 calendar months would be the limit for the engagement. And then we'd also request that the independent contractor have any and all necessary certification, license, bonding, insurance, background check as necessary to the position. Might not be all of those, but something a little more than grabbing somebody off the street and throwing them in the seat. So for actions, we'd recommend to the city council to facilitate approval and implementation before the next council meeting, if possible, and then question mark can ad hoc act independently for approval. So with that said, obviously, if the council has any comments, but I think the goal here is to get some assistance for the city manager as quickly as possible.
Thank you, but I don't believe we can have a discussion on this item.
That's right.
You can report at. Thank you.
So I'm a little bit curious because I know
Can't
normally
discuss it.
when the
We can't
no,
discuss.
no, I'm asking a process question.
Okay.
When the city manager reports out on things, we're able to discuss them and give
Because they're
direction.
part of my report. So I provide you a written report that's in the packet and it's
Okay.
agendized as a staff report.
Okay.
So the public has full access to that information.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So Mandy, you're not planning on reporting out on anything tonight?
No, I was going to do that at our regular meeting, not a special meeting.
Okay. Well, my recollection from our last meeting was that you were going to go forward and start a recruiting process for clerk.
That is what I had recommended, and the council formed an ad hoc to look into that option.
I see. Okay.
Can I ask a question about the ad hoc
Mhm.
directly to you? Are they working with you? Are they reporting their findings to you or?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, so they provided me a written report.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So and I totally appreciate you guys recognizing the urgency of the meeting minutes part. I mean, that's really the most time consuming part of the whole thing. And if you guys, I was thinking if you had some time, I know this starts to become a lot, all of these ad hocs, and throwing things back on you, but if there was some time to kind of talk about your questions regarding the full idea of, contracting for services too, it'd be nice to have that conversation as well. I know, obviously it would come back to the full council, but just to kind of talk about where we are, where my staff is, kind of what our staffing levels, budgetary levels are in my office, and kind of how this fits into it, I think would be a good part of the conversation to have as well. So,
Great, thank you.
yeah.
Any public comment on this item? On the you can't read. Got it. Thank you.
Mm.
I think you should generalize this. I don't. May I ask?
One process question.
Yes.
How soon, Mandy, by what method can we get the approval you need to take action?
I think we're fine agendizing this at the next meeting. I would have to do some research to see if there is such a service as a transcription service. I'm not sure that. I guess my concern a little bit is the longer term solution might be just as short as a short term fix as well. Because I'm just not sure. I mean, there might be someone in the community that would be interested. I guess in my mind, that was kind of what I was, is kind of somewhat similar as what I was proposing, just a little bit higher level. So I guess my concern is, would it take as long to recruit for a transcription service as it might for a person just to fill the position? If we could come to some clarity on what that could look like, that was my only thought. So, but I can definitely this week do some outreach to see if there's maybe someone from another board or commission. I have done some outreach to see if anyone has anyone that wants to do this type of work, but I could do maybe a deeper dive into that.
I want to caution the council on further discussion on the item.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
I'm leading you in the wrong
No, it's okay.
direction
I
too.
just want to make sure we stay on the path. All right. So we are on item, I believe we're on item 5. Did you say? Got it. Thank you. We're on future agenda items. Don't we need to do 5C, however, the manual update?
Future agenda items.
Okay.
That's where we put it.
Thank you.
I would
Yes.
like to bring to the agenda the city clerk position, including the integrity, the full scope of the position, the intention of the position, the history of the position, and yeah, discuss it.
So like a presentation item on your
Yes.
report, essentially.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
And that would be a discussion and action item so that the council could make a decision on it. Um, okay. So I would like to request that the running agenda items list is part of every one of our packets, even special meeting packets, so that when we get to this topic, we can look at that document and see what we have in the queue and see where we are and make have a productive conversation about it. John, do you have anything on your list that we should be talking about right now?
I think we have enough on our docket right now that we can bring up in the future. I know we have some closed session items that we'll be bringing forward probably at a special meeting next week. So we'll be
Really? Sorry.
potentially, yes. City Manager Megger, can you confirm that? I talked to Ryan today and he said next week still, but I wasn't entirely
Okay,
sure
yeah.
what was
I
happening.
did not touch base with Ryan today, so I can find out tomorrow
Okay.
if he still needs that special meeting.
Okay. And it'll most likely be short or shorter.
Okay.
Um, most likely, yes. If you guys have any, I don't have my list ready to go. I present to you guys of where we're at this meeting. I wasn't planning on presenting that.
Well, I
I
would like to say again that I'd like to form an ad hoc committee to be involved in the power transitions discussions. That has gone forward numerous times and not made it onto the agenda yet. So I'd like that to go forward.
City Manager Maker, are we allowed to comment on anything related to that at this time?
Future agenda.
Yeah, I mean, you guys can dialogue not in depth on the issue, but on its placement in the process of the agenda. So whether it's goes on this coming meeting or the next meeting, but yeah, not to the point where it becomes a discussion item.
Okay. And sorry, just to clarify, that was for the power transitions project, or that was for the power plant in general?
Well, I've requested both, but I think the power transitions is maybe a little more pressing. I think they're both important.
Yeah,
City Manager Maker, I just want to make sure I'm not overextending. Can I give a, we can't give any kind of an update on that, correct? Like in any way, shape, or form?
We don't have a lot to report yet. You might want to just hold off until the next meeting.
Great.
Yeah, when you have more information.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. We have it on our list. We have it on the list, so we'll go ahead and look into that in the future.
Okay.
All right. Any other future agenda items?
If we are going to continue with the overall manual update for tonight, then I guess that won't be necessary for a future agenda item, but make sure that we don't lose it.
I don't think we're going to get too far on it, honestly.
Yeah.
But so we'll carry that over probably. But again, in my mind, that's not a high priority item. There's maybe a couple
We're not onto
issues
that
there.
yet, so let's
Yeah.
think on that. Let me just look over my list here. I think that we brought this forward in the past, which was the Economic Development Commission discussion on projections. City Manager, I apologize. I thought that was going to be on this meeting. Was it?
On this one tonight?
Yeah, it's okay.
Oh,
It was one
sorry.
of my highlighted green ones. That's all.
Okay. Well, yes.
Okay.
And yes, I can put on the next meeting.
Sounds
I'm
great.
sorry, what was the item?
It was essentially discussion on um creating or directing the development commission to come up with numbers projections for just stuff.
several projects that we have that are at play right
It might be a really good idea to have somebody from that commission be at the meeting where we discuss that.
Well, and I think in as part of that discussion, I probably can answer some of the questions and can probably provide you with some of the numbers that you're asking for because we have done a lot of work, especially in the Powers Creek district on projections. The RV Park and Campground has a full development plan, including a pro forma and projections and everything, cost analysis. And we did have some other work done too that I can provide to you that has some projections on grocery stores and recreation stores and different things as well.
Great. So it's a potential future agenda item then, but we'll see. We'll
Mhm.
talk and then get back on that. Okay, great. I have no more future agenda items.
I do, given 5C, and I don't know if this is still on the future agenda, but again, having a solid discussion about how we proceed with the development of our agendas. I think it's really imperative for this council to have uh, a clear and a clear role and authority within setting the agenda so that we can kind of work harmoniously with our city staff and with our commissions. And until such time that we can have, I think, a greater imprint on these agendas, we're going to continue to stumble and struggle. And I'd really like to see us queue up for a lot more success rather than a little bit of the chafing that I've seen. So again, that's having the council having the opportunity to be together is where we can have our dialogue. And that dialogue includes public comment, includes the idea that all 5 of us here, and includes input from the city manager, sometimes from the city attorney. So we have to be able to set our priorities, and in order to do so, we kind of have to set the agenda to a large degree. So that's where I'd like to see a future agenda item is if we haven't followed up to get a few more steps ahead on being able to set our agenda.
Okay, so we'll have an agenda setting process discussion. Is that what we're asking?
Yes.
Okay.
Formalize
And that's
that
part of
process.
your manual. Your manual is what identifies your process.
And
So
so does ordinance. And so what I see in that manual is actually in direct contrast to what's in ordinance.
exactly. That's why we're
And
talking about updating the manual. So
But-
everything is reflective of each
right.
other.
But we don't have to update an entire manual in order to address something that I think to this council is such a high priority. So we can break that out. And I think it's important that we break that out and address it sooner. And now we're going to get into 5C. So I'll stop right there.
Great, thank you. Last call for future agenda items. All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to 5C. That's
Before we dive in, um, can I just suggest that we pick a few high priority items in this to address tonight and punt the rest to another time?
let's get an overview of the project and then we'll make that decision. Actually, it is 8 o'clock. I'm gonna ask if anyone needs a quick break or if we want to continue. 5-minute break. I'm gonna grab some water and you guys can, City Manager Megan, will you begin the discussion on item C?
Sure. So like I talked about at the beginning, there's a lot of inconsistencies in the manual. We do have a draft started that it has been starting to update these to get it current. So I thought it was a good starting point. Like I said, the last couple of councils ago, we did have an ad hoc who was working through it, um, going through the manual to bring it current. It just didn't get finalized. So a lot of the work in the manual has been done. I think for the council, some of the big ticket items are the way an item gets on the agenda, both as a public process and a council process. The agenda setting committee, whether it's just the mayor or there's actually a committee, um, and then you guys are already starting the conversation about kind of your intersection with commissions. Um, a lot of the manuals for all the cities are very similar. We all have the same form of government, so there's some good examples of language that's clarified. April did a lot of work. She was our past actual certified city clerk. She actually got her municipal clerk certificate, so that was pretty cool. So she did take a lot of time to go through the manual and start to make sure that there was consistencies. I don't think it's a big haul to do this. Honestly, I think if I was to go in, if you reviewed the track changes, we probably could adopt like 90% of those track changes without any question because they're really just clarification or updating of current status. And then, you're really just getting down to a few items that are really the meat of some of your issues that you want to really delve into. The manuals are written pretty consistently amongst cities because they're consistent with law and the manager council form of government. So there's not a lot of places to change aspects of that. So, staying within those legal structures. But like I said, a lot of the updates are really just getting us to where we are current. Like we didn't have an arts and heritage commission before. Our public safety commission originally was only tasked with doing the sheriff contract. So that was expanded and different things. So those, some of those commissions don't exist, or JPAs and different things don't exist and need to be updated. So I don't know if you had a chance to look at the track change one. I know I don't do well reading track changes. It's really hard for me to follow. But I don't know if that was helpful or you had questions or
Can
I
you
would
say, are these all changes you've made or changes the previous ad hoc made, or what
both.
is it?
Both.
Okay.
So
So these changes have been in process for a number of years?
yes, yeah. As
Okay.
the manual is being updated through the years. Yeah. And then I've gone through and started updating again to get us current.
So I noticed there's different colors,
Mhm.
which of course this is black and white in front of me, but
Okay. Go ahead, Michelle.
I would request, and I'm not clear on whether or not the clean copy without track changes, unmarked version is available, because I would need to work with that
Oh,
because
yeah.
I was unable to actually get this to.
Gotcha. Okay. When I provided with your like new council member packet, there was
So,
one in there, but if you don't have it, I have one right here.
okay,
So
yeah, I think I do have that. I just wanted to clarify and just make sure that that does include
So
the
that
changes.
one, no, it doesn't. So the one that I gave you with your new council packet does not include those track changes. So because
Right.
they were
Okay.
never adopted. Yeah.
Okay. Got
Yeah.
you. Okay. So is there a possibility of getting a clean,
Mhm.
unmarked copy that
Give you one
I could?
right now.
Yeah. Thank you.
City manager Mayor.
So the one that was previously distributed is the clean unmarked copy.
It's the
Mhm.
current copy that's not dated, but it's what's in place.
Right.
Track changes
So
I
that
provided to you are the ones that we've been working on to update.
right. So the one that you just got is the one that we all got earlier, correct?
Mhm.
Okay.
City
Yeah.
manager Maker. Would it be possible to get a digital copy of that in the near future?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, because I'm like digital only, so I was like, I don't have those papers anymore.
Oh, yeah.
So
Well, it okay.
anyway,
Is
I was
it
just
good
curious.
as a PDF?
Oh,
I mean, there's the marked up PDF,
Yeah.
but I don't think the
I
full
gotcha.
document.
Yeah.
Super
So what I'll do tomorrow is I'll make copies for everyone and I'll email you
Great.
everything so you have it both ways. Yeah.
That's what
okay.
I'm asking.
Okay. I do have a few comments. Some of them are just kind of housekeeping.
Sure.
California code, certainly in its judiciary, requires a minimum of 12-point font. And I know with tracking changes, it's difficult to fit that on the paper
Mhm.
and have the room for the annotations.
Yeah.
But maybe if it was in a horizontal view, and I'm not trying to nitpick, but even with my reading glasses, trying to read through. So for me, I appreciate the track changes and having all changes from this to that, where if it's new language, it's in bold. If it's being taken out, it's stricken through. Um, but I found I can't tell you how many hours on this that I've spent already just trying to like comparing between the old and the new. If at all possible, please, if it could be done in a horizontal format with a
Mhm.
12-point, um, that would be a game changer.
Sure.
Now the second, and this is really addressing the council on this, and maybe I might be the only one that thinks this way. But when I see roles and responsibilities and protocol manual, this is something that the council needs to be thoroughly involved with. And I think that this was an excellent opportunity, and still an opportunity, to work together on this in a workshop where we're not having to make big decisions together, but we can discuss. It's an opportunity that this council could sit together and looking from California code and referencing the League of California Cities, and like you've done and like I've done too, looking at Eureka, Arcata, Trinidad, Fortuna, Ferndale, even stepping outside, and let's look what Sacramento is doing. To take some of these elements and try to build the best of the best. But I think trying to do this in a formal process in a council meeting, and certainly this isn't what I had seen as a priority for the council, so I'm surprised to see that on the agenda. Um, I would ask the council to consider making this more of a workshop item that we get to work together as a council and kind of explore some of these ideas before we just continue to have changes sort of put upon us, but to take a more participatory role that will help educate us in the process, and it can also allow the public to have some comment too, without being as formal as a council meeting. So I respect the effort that it takes in doing this, Mandy. It's a lot. And I know that your intention is like, let's clean this up and let's move forward.
Mhm.
I think that if we're looking at something that is a complement to our ordinances and our resolutions, then we want to take our time with it. This council should be thoroughly educated and involved in that process. I think the best way to do that would be through a workshop. That's my 2 cents worth.
Any other comments?
I absolutely find this to be a priority. I feel like it is um, the 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 rules of our conduct and the way and processes are all in here. If you read through it, the struggle that I'm having is making sure that everything is updated. I do have a couple of questions, but I would prefer to keep this a priority and as and understanding that it is following ordinance and rules and we can do a comparison. I'm not sure that a workshop would be what I would prefer. I would ask for an ad hoc as before, but I do find that every item in here is relevant to the questions that and the struggles that we are coming up with at every meeting. And I feel that these are items that need to be clarified. And in that process, yes, absolutely, we will, if we get it cleaned and get then we can have it available and then we can start addressing questions within it. But the questions that we're asking at these meetings seem to be in this manual. And that's why I feel like it needs to be a priority. But ad hoc, I would be happy to do this. I like doing editing. I like doing organizing. I'm happy to be on that, but that would be my priority would be to get this done.
Any more comments?
I guess there's some items in here that I would agree are priority. The fact that some of it is in conflict with our municipal code, I feel like our only quick choice is to bring it in line with our municipal code because it's quite a process to change the municipal code. So, I mean, sometimes when I look through this, I feel like it's sort of a giant mess, with all the contradictions. But also feel like, we don't necessarily have to have this spelled out exactly right because we can rely on the municipal code in a lot of ways. That's my input. But yeah, if you wanna jump into an ad hoc, I personally don't right now have the bandwidth to be researching all these different manuals and lots of if somebody wants to do the research and show them to me and I can go, oh yeah, okay, that looks good. This seems to be the standard. I'm okay with that. Great, but uh I don't really have a lot of time to be doing that research right now.
Another idea would be to potentially modularize how we're looking at it. So we pick a couple priority items that the council feels need to be addressed and then address those and review those and then um, formalize those and finish them. Would that be acceptable to do modular reviews
Yeah,
of each
and
item?
And honestly, when you go through this, it they're all pretty standard. I mean, there's not like I don't anticipate that you're going to rewrite this manual. These manuals are all put together. In fact, Ryan just updated Fortuna's, so he's going to send us the updated version of theirs. So this all up to date with all current codes and regulations. I don't think that there's like a lot of room in these to like rewrite a lot of the content. I think what's really important is to clarify policy, process, roles, and responsibilities and make those consistent. And I think what you come up with in this is what will end up being an ordinance change to because I think you're going to want to change some of the stuff that's in the ordinance. I think the way it got transcribed to the ordinance, we can't even figure out when we did the the online ordinance, like we took tons and tons of documents, and I'm not really sure that it really even got updated correctly. I'm not, because it's so inconsistent. I'm just like, and even Ryan looked at it and goes like, "Where in the world did you guys come up with this language for the?" I'm like, "I don't know. I didn't do that. Like maybe it was an old resolution that quality code got mixed up in the order or something." But he's like, "Yeah, this is like so, like placing an item on the agenda to just say like the public can place an item on the agenda at any time. Like he's like, no one does that. Like this doesn't make sense because there's no process. I'm like, I don't know. This is what it says. So I think there's some real cleanup things in the ordinance that clarifying and cleaning this up will lead to that. And that's I mean, it's a multiple step process, but it's not overly cumbersome. But I don't think that you'll need to like tear this thing apart. It's not like the Constitution of Blue Lake or something that we're trying to create. So, but really, I think you want to look at, your agenda setting, how you put an item on the agenda is really, that one really needs to be clarified. But the other stuff is really like reflective of just kind of law. And, so I don't know. I don't know how deep of a dive you want to take into it.
Well, I think some of that you have the benefit of all these different handbooks and you've done some research to correlate that with various laws. I mean, I have noticed that parts of our municipal code are exactly word for word um, some state laws. So, I mean, if you can provide, some of your sources, so we can compare, that would be useful. Um, and I think there's some things in here that, I feel are, some of the corrections seem wrong to me. Um, so I don't know. I don't know if we want to start going line by line and see how far we get, or what do you guys want to do?
I do have a comment. I think that John's suggestion of modularizing and prioritizing this will have the greater chance of really having some good thought brought into this. Um, and also, what I've been reading in this extends beyond just roles and responsibility and protocol. It really is establishing policy, which is really up to the city council to establish policy with input with the city manager, of course, and you would want to hear from the public. But in establishing policy, it's really important to be attentive with it and thoughtful and well informed. So, in this instance, I think an ad hoc committee would really be overburdened unless it's like they're taking a particular module and bringing that to fruition. But I do think that a better process could be slower, but I think it could have something more well-rounded result. I think Christopher is going to have ideas to offer that, if he's not here, if he's not part of the ad hoc committee, we could miss out on those. Again, by a workshop, it allows an opportunity for dialogue amongst all of the council and more casually with the city manager and other parties that might be involved or interested in it so that we can develop a policy that works for the town. And this is council, we set policy. So we can either decide to, participate in this upfront and thoughtfully, or we can let go and see what comes back to us. Um, if we have roles and responsibilities, then we need to, those responsibilities are also defined within job descriptions, which aren't a part of this. I mean, it can expand really quickly. So modules, yes. Prioritizing, yes. I'd still think having a workshop or having all of the council involved in the process is really important to the process. Thanks.
I have a question for you, Mandy. There
Sure.
in the manual, there are 3 different um, names.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know what's the difference between an ad hoc, a subcommittee, and a task force, please.
That is, let's see. An ad hoc is appointed for specific objectives, and a task force, I believe, is more of a like a specific action based designation. So we've had in the past a drought task force. It was like kind of more of like an emergency item. It was a specific action, and they were directed to basically take specific actions on an issue. Um, I think a task force becomes a little bit more of an urgency type of issue. Um,
I
and was
think
the other
each of
one?
those things
So,
is defined in
hang on.
here.
Can I ask?
She wasn't done.
Sorry.
Right.
I can't
And
remember
you
what the other
apologize.
one was
So
you had.
the specific number of people involved and the people outside of council,
Mhm.
are people outside of council allowed in any of those? And are all of those only limited to 2 people?
I don't, but like if you wanted to involve a member like of the public
Right.
I think that's fine. You guys, because they don't have any statutory authority, or so you guys do. So they're not subject to like a Brown Act violation. Um, I mean, I'm assuming you've read this document a little bit. It's not that exciting. I'm not really interested in this document as kind of like a defining uh, uh, direction. I'm more interested in this process for this. This is what I see this as. This tells us what we should and shouldn't be doing or how we do it. I don't see this as a document that's going to take us somewhere other than, managing our day-to-day operations. It's more of a management policy than it is like a vision or, um, so I'm not, and I don't, you mentioned like job descriptions and things. Like, I think you have to be really careful on all of that because that's what this document's about, is separation of duties and separation of authorities. And so when you start talking about, bringing in job descriptions, then you start talking about the council engaging in management of staff. And that's really what this document is about, saying, here's what the council's role is, here's what, your city manager's role is, your attorney's role, and clearly defining those. And so I think that's important to, to recognize. Um, I think there's other documents and things for the city that I think would be more worthy of that deep dive of your time that could really help to set direction or growth potential for the community or but I don't know that it's this document.
If I just have one more question.
Yeah.
Thank you for answering my question. I would like to look into a little bit more on this is
Yeah,
my own whatever. I'm not going to get hung up on it, but if I had some editorial comments, not necessarily content related, but maybe some omissions
Oh,
or
absolutely.
some other
Mhm.
things, is that something that I can submit to you in an email?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments from council? Do we need some more time to review the document?
Seems like we haven't decided what we're going to do.
Right. I was going to propose something if we're still reviewing or what our goal.
I propose you better have a ring
Yeah.
for flowers.
Um,
ahead.
does the council wish to pick a set number of modules and look at them? And if so, do you have them in mind at this moment?
Oh, me?
Is that
Oh,
what?
sure. Well, if it was up to me, I would definitely want to clarify how items get on the agenda. Um, I think you guys have talked a lot about commissions and just making sure that that language is very clear, and that you guys feel comfortable understanding and having the kind of the legal authorities about interactions with commissions and what their roles are. I think consistency with just our current status, accepting those track changes regarding, our current commissions, cleaning up just outdated information, I think will get us a long ways. Um, and then if there's just any questions on roles and authorities. I think clarifying that, but a lot of what is in there really, like I said, is just getting consistent with current status. I mean, if you accepted most of those track changes, your document's probably, I would think, probably 85% complete. Um, so.
I'm curious if this manual mirrors the pattern in some of these others, because I'm finding that the same thing is discussed numerous times in here,
Mhm.
and it's kind of ridiculous. Um, it
Right.
it makes it I'm like, wait a minute, that's right here. Oh, and it's 5 pages
Mhm.
down here, and it's 20 pages back here. It's a mess, so I'm not sure it needs to be in all those places, or if we're just jumping around. Um, so uh I don't know how it got that way. I don't know if it should stay that way, if there's a reason for it to be like that,
Yeah,
but
and I
it
did
seems
look
really
at
difficult.
ours is very similar to Fortuna's, very similar to uh, is it Arcada's? Eureka, I think it's Eureka. They have a very like a much smaller manual that I was really interested in. Looks like they really synthesized. I think what you're seeing a lot of redundancies is as each commission is identified and then they talk about the roles and responsibilities where you could say, the roles and responsibilities of commissioners and council member are blah, and here's our 5 commissions instead of reiterating the same information each time we talk about a commission. And it seemed like Eureka kind of synthesized theirs down a bit. So theirs seemed a little bit shorter, a little bit easier to read. I thought theirs was pretty good.
How many pages is it?
13.
Oh, that
And there's,
Eureka's?
yeah.
I looked at
And
this
they're,
too.
they're half the pages aren't even like fully taken up. So
And did
Mhm.
I
is
thought theirs was interesting to look at.
Less is more.
Yeah,
is that available on their website?
it is. Yes.
So maybe you could send us all something with all the links that you're using, or links to everything you're using, so we can kind of review some of that.
Yeah, and I haven't used theirs to compare back to ours yet, but I just wanted to get all the other cities. A lot of us we use the same attorney too. So, I mean, and that's one of the areas where we can save some resources since some of the other city. I know Trinidad is going through the same process. I met with their new city manager and he had questions about agenda setting and how that happened because they needed to clean up theirs as well. So, we had talked to our attorneys because we have the same attorney about sharing some of this information amongst each other and kind of updating our stuff together. So we all get kind of an updated policy in the end, but we share in the costs. So that's always helpful. And since Ryan had just done Fortuna's as well, he has all that information. So, like I said, I don't know. It's a lot of it's just like cleanup stuff. Um,
Well, some of
I
the
don't know how
changes
you
I
want to.
saw seem to be more substantive than just a cleanup. I did notice a bunch of things that were, capital should be a small letter and blah blah, that kind of cleanup. But there's a few things that just absolutely just seem to change some pretty substantial things. Um, so I definitely want to take time on that and not just assume that that's just a cleanup change. And yeah, if there's a shorter version, I think we should have an opportunity to review it and consider what that would look like.
I mean, it might be nice if you have an ad hoc and we could take a first go at this, a first whack at it, and then bring it back. So you're keeping it moving. I don't know if that seems reasonable. I could, take some time I can double, cross check it between Eureka and Fortuna and see if we can pick up some ways to pull it together even more. But I do agree. I think a lot of the questions get answered through this document. And so the more clear, straightforward, and
Updated.
updated, it's going to help everybody.
Great. We're at 21 minutes. Does anyone want to? Can we entertain a motion, or do we have
We're only
discussion?
2 hours in. What are you talking
I'm just trying to move us along here.
We're having flashback.
Right, I know.
Well, since Since the agenda setting issue is so key to everything, maybe we should hammer that one out right now.
Does anyone wish to take that up right now?
I'm not willing to hammer out any of them tonight, but I'm certainly game for developing a game plan and setting priorities on approach.
Okay. Well, I'd like there to be an absolute 100% buy-in for everybody in this room about how we're going to set the next agenda. That's what I'd like.
Well, there's 6 of us here.
Okay. Well, Justin doesn't have to buy in. He gets a buy on this one.
At least I think we do have a process in place. I think we're following it. I don't think we need to take that on at this moment personally, but I want to hear from everyone.
I agree. Well, I mean, Andy is. We're kind of going back and forth. I think a little bit with some of the task at hand. To me, the priority, what I would like to see, is an ad hoc committee taking a hold of this, getting it cleaned up, getting a clean copy, seeing where we are, bringing it back to the council for review, and just like any policy, just think of this as a large standard operating procedure, and once it's clean and we have some clarification of language and we have some clarification of not conflicting with any ordinances, etc., then we can move forward with some of the more specific items that we would maybe have questions about. There are several in here that are like, oh, really? But I just want to see it cleaned up first.
One other proposal I have is that we pick a couple high priority items and we either have the ad hoc pick those high priority items and bring them back to council and potentially do a workshop discussion around those items as another option. I mean, after those other items are presented for the council.
I feel like it would be difficult to choose a couple of them, and a couple of them might not even be that complex to work around. And if we risk losing the rest of the manual update by prioritizing 1 or 2 items and not just getting this completed for a first draft, if that makes sense. I would be concerned that we would lose the rest of it to 6 months from now.
May I ask,
Yes, please go ahead.
Michelle, so what I think I'm hearing you say is a rough draft by an ad hoc committee, doing this in whole, bring it and doing that more quickly, bring it back to the council, and at that time the council would maybe prioritize out modules for cleanup
And
or
for
reviews.
clarification, questions, discussions.
Okay, but just you're saying like one kind of quick pass to get the junk out of it, and then it would be a deeper examination on modules at the choosing of the council and the suggestion or recommendation of the city manager.
That's what I would like to see.
Yeah. And I think ad hoc could bring you some recommendations from other cities. And we can ask Ryan if these, what the other cities are doing, but if their language might be derived from the Brown Act or Rosenberg's or something too, so that we're just not seeing. So there might not even be wiggle room. It might just be that's the law. So we could easily do that. Because I'm like reading, Fortuna's how to place items on the agenda, the process and who does it and everything is very straightforward and clear. And it almost mirrors our stuff order of agenda items. Like we have all that same. Somewhere we just got off from the municipal code to these. So the language comes from somewhere because everyone's using the same language.
So I haven't heard from the council any leaps of joy and excitement for doing this through a workshop method.
I
So,
think that makes sense. I mean, I'm not leaping for joy about any of this, but
but
I think it makes sense to just sit down and slog through it.
With that said, and to try to get some traction and movement, this is, it's here now, and there are questions that we have. For saying want an ad hoc kind of do a first run through, then we can workshop on modules that we deem important. Is that kind of a good compromise that gets us further down the road?
I love that idea.
Okay.
Okay, I'll take it.
Everybody gets what they want. That's what we're trying to do.
So do we wish to entertain who would like to be on this ad hoc committee? Do we have volunteers? Because I am taxed, but
I would like to be on the ad hoc committee for this item.
You don't have to have, you can have one person. You don't have to have two.
Would you prefer, Michelle, just one? Oh, okay.
I will, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I will be on this ad hoc committee, but in an assistive manner.
Sound good?
Okay.
Great.
So can I give a go at making a motion here? Is it
Do we need to
time?
open this up to we do have public,
Comment.
we do have public comment that we
Yeah,
should
except
look
for it's
into.
an agenda item. I don't
Uh,
think you have to make a motion to do this. You can just make it.
Great.
It's more of a directive. Yeah.
Do we have any public comment on Zoom? Because that's all who's left.
Hot, Shell Lewis,
Clear the room.
John Swanby.
I am seeing no public comment. Bring it back to council for no further discussion or comment. Seeing none, we've formed an ad hoc committee and we're moving on. And yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to reiterate, I think what our goals or our method is, the ad hoc committee with Michelle Lewis-Luso, John Sawatsky, and Mandy Major to do a first pass cleanup and kind of looking at referring to other cities, what they're doing, cleaning up some of the language on this, bringing those that work back to council for review, and then expecting that council will then prioritize and modularize, and then quite possibly workshop those prioritized modules for improvement.
Thank you so much for the clarification. It's appreciated.
Can we get to expect more clarification? And Mandy, will you be emailing all of us your resource materials, your different manuals and stuff?
Sure. I will. I like I said, I just Googled. Well, I'm not Googling now. I'm Yahooing because I'm protesting Google. But just City of Eureka Council Handbook, Arcata Council Handbook.
I think they're available on the web pages
Yeah. That's
for
it.
each individual city.
Yeah, but I mean, I can download them and email them, or
Well,
I can email a
if you
link.
just send an email with links to each of them,
yeah.
then that would be helpful. I just don't want to start from scratch.
Mhm.
Great. All right. Can we get a motion to adjourn?
Oh, do we need to make a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
We do need to make a motion.
Oh, I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much.